Alright, so day one of actual content, we're going to cover three things like I said. The three things that we're going to be covering are the top three here on this list. Simplifying algebraic expressions, solving equations, and solving inequalities with one variable. Now, listen, when we go through this, it's not I've never seen this information ever, and I'm learning it for the first time. I know that. You should know that. It's I've seen this before, and I'm trying to learn it to a level to where I can test and get a 99 on the test, at least. Okay? Remember, the test is the PSAT. So you're trying to refine and make it to where not only can you work through it quickly, you can interpret and read it fast, and at the same time ensure that you get 100% correct. Okay? Here we go. Alright, so foiling and when to foil. Up here in this expression that we're about to simplify, you should notice something we talked about in the summer, this multiplicity of x minus 2 squared. If you're a person that needs to write it out when the multiplicity is like this, 2 times, so that you do first, outside, inside, last, or you should probably have it memorized from those drill worksheets that we did over the summer. We saw these. A minus squared, or a minus b quantity squared, is a squared minus what? 2ab. And then, say it out loud, plus b squared. Okay, so don't be afraid to make a mistake. Please don't be afraid or shy to make a mistake, okay? So, if you were to FOIL this out, it's going to equal x squared minus what? 4x plus 4, okay? So, this right here, I would ask you, definitely if you're showing the work, and some of you did struggle with that just now, write it out with the -3 still in front, because you still have to distribute this, and that's how you would get this answer right here. And then combine like terms, it's as simple as that there at the end. And then your simplified answer is going to be this, in descending order from the highest degree down to the constant. Questions? Okay. Let's continue to move forward, and let's do some practice. Alright, so we'll start, real quick. Alright, so examples that we're looking at. Let's look at a couple. Now listen, we're not going to do every single question because we don't have the time. But I'm going to spot check ones that I feel most people struggle with and make simple errors on, so please be ready because I will call on you randomly. Alright, so let's go to begin. Shane, what would I do for number 2? What would you start simplifying first?
You would do the x minus 4 squared.
Okay, perfect. And you would simplify that to what?
It would be 2 times in parentheses x squared minus 8x plus 16.
Perfect. Yep, and then everything else would be just written down, right? James, what would you do next?
Do the 4x squared to the x minus 4.
Perfect. So he would distribute these off to both of them. And James, what would you get down here?
4x cubed and then 16x negative 16x.
Or is it negative, positive? Which one?
It's positive.
Positive, yep, 16x squared, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what goes here, James, in front of the 4x cubed?
Nothing.
Well, what sign? Is it positive or negative?
Now it's negative.
Yeah, it's going to be a negative, right? Because you just distributed. And then everything else, these 2's are going to distribute to get 2x squared minus 16x plus 32. And then you'd combine everything together and just simplify it out, right? Matt, what would you get when you simplify?
Negative 4x cubed plus 18x squared minus 16x plus 32.
Yep, 32. And that would be the answer. Awesome. Alright, so again, we're getting rid of simple errors here, okay? So now let's look at something. Let's look at 5. Okay? So Megan, what would you do to 5? How would you start number 5?
You would distribute the x columns.
Okay, so distribute the
Or
x,
you would,
the FOIL?
yeah.
The FOIL method? Okay, so let's FOIL method this one, Megan. What would I get?
You would get 2x.
Or x squared?
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. X squared, keep going.
You would get x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4.
Yep, so the two x's that are together, let's go ahead and just go straight to 4x, okay? And then plus 4, and we would get that for sure. Okay, Holly, what would we get if we did the same thing here?
X squared plus 4, no, minus 4x plus 4.
Yep, plus 4. Okay, so resuming from here. I just did the distribution for the first one, which you see right here. I did the distribution for the second one, which you see right here. But the way it's written right now, okay? Zach, what's wrong with the way that it's written right now?
We're subtracting the x minus 2 squared.
Okay, so I should put a subtraction here is what you're saying. What's still wrong with it?
You have to distribute a negative 1 to all of it.
Perfect. So this is a huge mistake that a lot of people make, especially in calculus, okay? And they test this on SAT, ACT a lot. They're looking for this particular error. So when we distribute, we'll get a negative x squared plus 4x minus 4. Everything else stays the same. Thank you. And then can anyone tell me what this would simplify to? 8x, right? Because what did those other things cancel to? What number did they cancel to? 0. Because when I add or subtract, I always cancel to what? 0. But if I multiply and divide, what do I cancel to? 1. Good stuff. All right. Let's now go to number 6. Colin, start us off with number 6. What would you simplify as first?
Distribute x through x minus 2.
Okay, you would distribute that and you get what?
X squared minus 2yx.
2yx or 2xy, either one, right? Why can I do either order, guys? Multiplication does not have order. Jacob, what would you do next?
I would do the x minus y
Okay.
square, and you would get x squared minus 2yx, xy,
Same thing?
minus y squared.
Ooh.
Or no, plus,
Plus y squared. Why plus y squared?
because a negative times a negative is a positive.
Perfect. And now, just like we did with Zach last question, we're going to put this negative distribution with parentheses. It's very important. And let's go with Matt. What would this be as far as this negative x squared? What would that become?
Just become plus x squared.
Yeah, just become plus x squared because this is a multiplicity showing something that looks like this. And a negative times a negative is a positive, right? All right, so from here, Jack, what would you do?
I would.
And there's no right or wrong answer. I just want to see what the progression is that most people would do.
Have you already moved the negative across?
Not yet, not yet. I've written the parentheses, but I haven't yet distributed, correct? So when I distribute that x, I would get a negative x squared. Keep going, Jack.
Negative x squared plus 2x.
Yep. And then?
Minus y squared.
Yep. And then we still have that plus x squared on the end. Some of us can do this faster than others, depending on the order that you do it. As long as you get to the same thing, that's what we're looking for, okay? Christian, what would this simplify out to completely?
X squared minus y squared.
X squared minus y squared. Is there a different answer that you could have found? What's the other answer, Marissa?
Negative y plus x squared.
Yep, negative y squared plus x squared. These are the same. Okay? Either one is correct. Alright, so now let's go to let's go to number 10. Number 10. Alright, Jackson, what would you do for number 10?
Are those braces acting as parentheses?
These braces are acting as parentheses, yes.
Then I would just simplify the whole thing to 1.
Yep, because anything to the power of 1, Jackson, is what?
Anything to the power of 0.
Or sorry, anything to the power of 0, thank you, is 1. Perfect. And then everything else would be distributed. Guys, my hope right here, here's that mistake that they're going to keep trying to catch you with. Even those of you who are epically fast at these, please make sure to do this one first and then distribute this afterwards, okay? So, can someone tell me from this right here that I've highlighted, what three words am I thinking? Difference of squares. So if it's a difference of squares, we know it's a difference of x squared and 1 squared, which we could just put 1 if we want. You with me? So now distributing this, I'd get a negative x squared, a positive 1. So my final answer could be written either like this or like this. You're refining and mastering that algebra, okay? Alright, so let's keep going. And again, this is not to learn it for the first time, but to refine and process quickly. Alright. Looking at all of this, there's a word to me that stands out as something that we talked about this summer. Okay? What word do you think I'm looking at right now that we talked about this summer?
Square.
Not the square. No, it's okay. Say again?
Algebraically?
Not algebraic, please.
Around a perfect square.
Look at this. Of 9 out of 10 times, and I told you this summer, what does of mean 9 out of 10 times? Multiplication. When you see that, you should always go to multiplication first. But sometimes, like in this case, of is a preposition. And a preposition begins a prepositional phrase. Basically, it's going to begin a parenthetic piece of some kind. Okay? So if I'm looking at this, what I can see is that parenthetic piece, that parenthetic piece, that parenthetic piece, and that parenthetic piece. Did it say square or square root? Square. So we know that this is not it and this is not it. You with me? And then the last thing is 7 less than. So if you're 7 less than what it was, it's not going to be 7 minus. And that's a big, big misconception. It's saying 7 less than the previous stated preposition in that respect. Okay? So D would be the answer on that. Please make sure that we know how to read them and looking at those placements of those prepositions. Now, I will give you a minute and a half to discuss, and I want you to make sure that as a team, you have the correct answer. All right, let me review or resume the time, so please let me have your attention. This is a y equals mx plus b form, okay? This is a form of y equals mx plus b. We know that those are just lines, but it's a little bit altered form of y equals mx plus b, okay? With that being said, I would venture to say that this is close to the hardest, difficult y equals mx plus b that you're going to see on the test because of the things that are worded inside of this question, okay? Now, 4,000 is a big number, right? It's an important number in this problem, okay? Looking at this, 4,000, would you say that that's a one-time fee or it's a fee per jump? It's a one-time fee, right? This is a one-time fee, possibly. Sorry, the way I said it. This is a measurement that would show where a one-time fee could occur, okay? Now look, if I'm looking at this, the one-time fee that I was trying to mention was the 30. So the 30 should be standing all by itself. Do you agree? Okay, so the $30 fee should stand by itself without an X. This one does, this one does, this one does, and this one does. So now we're gravitating to this 4,000. And the most important words in this question are right here. After that, then each text will cost 20 cents. Which one up here is not showing 20 cents? A. Okay? After the 4,000. So what we should do are think of two numbers in my opinion. One of them is 4,000. So if I put 4,000 where X belongs, how much money should it be? It should be $30, right? So here, this would zero this out to where I have 30 left over. If I put 4,000 here, it zeroes this out so that I have 30 over. But if I put 4,000 here, does it equal $30? No. So that already tells me that one's not going to work. Now you have two choices. It's either 4,000 minus x or it's x minus 4,000. They will try to get you with this. Which one do you think it is? D. Because the second number that I would probably try to put in would be 4001. Because if I put 4001 where that x variable is at, then 4001 minus 4,000 is 1. That means for one increment, that 20 cents will come into play, and that would be for $30.20. How many of you got D? Raise your hand, please. Okay, so that is a one that they will test a lot just to see, do you know how to disseminate that information? All right, this one is a little bit more difficult. You might have to create a table. You might have to draw a picture. You might have to draw a list. Do whatever you can, but please show work as you read through this problem. As a team, work to get the correct answer. 2 minutes. Nicely done. Love the conversations as well. The correct answer is C. Let me show you if you didn't get it. The reason why, this one time is a fee. And I see 100, but then I also see per child. So I should be looking for somewhere that has a 400 all by itself. See, these other ones don't have 400 by itself. It has 400x, and it has 100 over here. Okay? So that's that one-time fee per child. How did we get the 800? Because the first child was 250, the next one was 200, and the third and the fourth were 175. And then after that, it's just per unit at that $800 rate. Are we good? Okay. Let's move on now to number 2, solving algebraic equations. Now look, I know that this is simple, but sometimes we might take too long and be slow because we're trying to find x all the time. Okay? Sometimes you don't have to find x. You can go and do something different to get to the answer that you need to. Guys, is it asking you to find x? No, it's asking you to find 3x minus 1. So sometimes you don't have to find x, because if you do, you're taking too much time, okay? You're making a 30-second problem probably into 10. And do those 20 seconds matter? They do if you're looking at one of the questions that's really difficult, okay? Now, the if and the comma kind of tells you that you're given something important that you need to get some information from. Notice how we just subtracted the 7, divided by 5, we got -6 and plugged it in. This is an easy type that, yes, you would solve for x and just plug it in. Let me see if you can identify the ones where you will alter and try to get to the answer faster. Okay, so we have 1/2 x plus 3, and we're given, or we're trying to find 4x. Now, try to think of the way that I just was explaining to you of how to get to the answer as fast as I could. Matt, what would you do to solve for 4x as fast as you could from this given information here? Subtract 3, so then now I have 1/2 x is equal to 4. And what would you do here?
Multiply it by 2.
Okay, so most people would multiply it by 2 if they were trying to find x. And I was telling you before, sometimes you can get to the answer faster by not necessarily going to x. What could I multiply both sides by?
Multiply by 8, and then it would give you right away.
Perfect.
4x equals.
So if I multiply by 8, it will give me the 4x that I need, and there's my answer. It saves you time, and when you have systems of equations and other things, it will help. Please develop this skill, okay? Please develop this skill. All right. So let's look at number 4. Okay, so number 4 is saying find 5x squared if we're given this. I'll let you look at it just for a little bit. What would you do to start this off, Zach?
Multiply by 3.
Multiply by 3. So you get 2x plus 4 is equal to what, Zach?
-6.
-6. Keep going. What would you do next?
I'd subtract the 4 over.
Subtract the 4 over so that you would get what?
Negative 10.
Negative 10. And from here, Zach, could you alter it somehow to get to 5x squared? Not really, right? This one's not as nice as the one we multiplied by 8. So this one is one that we're going to solve for x and then just plug it in, okay? So if we solve for x, everyone, what is x? Negative 5? Don't let it catch you. What's my final answer? 125. Because a negative 5, when inputted, will become a positive 25. So that when you multiply, you get 125. Okay, so they're checking negative mistakes yet again. Let's move on to number 6. We're trying to find x. Now, someone couldn't answer me before lunch. I hope someone's able to answer me something that I had asked them dealing with this problem. What would y'all do? And you can volunteer. What would you do to solve for x?
You return x squared minus 25 to x plus 5 times x minus 4.
Wait, you're saying this right here?
Yes.
So Shane's saying we should, factor this to this, and this. Shane, what would I do next?
Divide by x minus 5 on both sides.
Woo! All right, listen. Divide by x minus 5 on this. Shane, what do you have left over?
You have x plus 5 equals x minus 4.
Keep going, Shane. What would I do?
You would just subtract the x on one of them.
So as x's go away, and then what would you do?
It's no solution.
So he's saying I would have 5 is equal to negative 5. No solution. I'll tell you right now, he's got some strong algebra skills. He does. Okay? Let's look at some stuff. Because I talked about this in the summer, and it was something that a lot of people, even to that high level, overlook sometimes. What could I do, Holly? Okay, so Holly was saying, if I square root both sides, we're going to learn from each other. Holly, what would I have left over on the right side? X minus 5. And what would I have left over here? Just the same, right? Could I find an x easily from here? I can't. Okay? So here's what I'll say. Looking at this, this is my suggestion. Jackson, what are you thinking? So you know the answer, okay? But here's the thing. I don't want you to get it from plug and chug.
We divide by x minus 5. And I don't know that.
Divided by 0.
Dividing by 0, dividing by the x minus 5. Here's what I'll say, guys. So with that, here's the thing. Don't be afraid to say what you think. Even if it might be wrong, please don't. Because I promise you, you're about to grow from this because there were good. And there's such a thing as awesome mistakes to be made so that you can see why and where and when. Okay? Guys, what we should have done is we know we can't square root it. We should have used the multiplicity on this and distributed it to that. The left side is this. Now, extra bragging rights. Do I have to set this equal to 0 from what I said this summer to solve for x? I do. Can someone tell me if you remember why must you set it equal to 0? Close, very, yeah. If you have the a and the b value from this standard quadratic piece, if you have those two terms, you must set it equal to 0, because if you don't, you will divide half of your answers. half of your possible answers, okay? So when you have an A and a B term, please go ahead and set it equal to 0 and GCF factor from there, okay? Let's move some stuff. I'm going to move this over so the x squareds go away. I'm going to move the 25 over so that I get that. You with me? Now from here you have two choices. You can either GCF out a -10, which a lot of people struggle with and would need on other forms, or you could have moved this 10 back over. Do you see how on both of these the answer is x equals 5? Okay? I hope that you get in a good habit of this right here, because this is an easier type of problem and I want you to get accustomed to this GCF. But either way, can someone tell me, why was I able to move this back over? I had just told you you have to set it equal to 0. Why was I able to move it back?
You no longer have the A value.
I no longer have the A value. Okay, so from there I can solve and I have x is equal to 5. Please, if you don't have it in your notes, don't just hear me say it for the first time. Write it down so you can remember this. This is for you to remember 9 weeks from today. Okay? Alright. Let's go ahead and do, let's say, what is 2y if x equals 3 and all of this? This one's pretty basic. All we're going to do is plug in x is 3. So we get 15 minus 9. And 15 minus 9 is what, guys? 6. Now, I know you're not used to it, but I want 2y. Could I multiply this by something that'll get me to 2y like that? 2/3. Because now this cancels to 1. This reduces to 2 over 1. So the answer is 4. I know you're thinking, man, that might save you 10 seconds at that. But here's the thing. If you can develop that, everything else increases. The speed, the accuracy, everything. Okay? All right. So let's move on. All right, so let's move on to this one right here. All right, resume the recording. I have a 3-pack and I have a 12-pack of these golf balls, and there's a total of, the store sold 630. So if you're selling 630 and 40 of their 12 packs, to me, of is important. I keep going back to that. And in this case, I have 40 packs of 20. And right there, that's the only multiplication that you can see up there that shows that 40 and 12. Do you agree? Okay, so chances are it's going to be this one. And if I subtract it from my total, and I now divide by my 3 packs, there's my answer. Because of one 2-letter word, I can read less and get to the answer faster. Okay? I hope you've seen the strengths in all these little things. All right. And if you wanted to, let's go ahead and skip 13 actually for the sake of time. Let's do 16. Aiden, how would you start 16?
16.
Anya, how would you start 16?
Distribute the 3.
Okay, so she's talking about distributing this 3. Okay, look at big picture. Jack, how would you start?
Can you cross out like -2 or no?
He's asking, can you cross those out to a form of 1? You tell me yes or no. No, because multiplication cancellation will only exist between multiplication pieces. That's a good mistake to make because it brings attention to a lot of things that you're not alone. There could be 4 or 5 other people that thought that. Here's what I'm saying. Looking at this, chances are you were shown in geometry to cross multiply and divide. You agree? To me, it's a little bit too much work. I want you to be refined and faster, more efficient. This looks a little bit difficult at first glance because of all these parentheses, but because there's two fractions. And I've taught you in the summer, get rid of denominators quickly. Jackson, what would you do?
Not what you just recommended.
Oh.
I'd simplified the.
You would simplify and then cross multiply and divide?
Just simplified first to make it.
Okay, so you'd make this 3p minus 6 minus 2, right? And this would be 10 minus p minus 5.
And then you can multiply both sides by -6.
Oh, there's what I was looking for. Perfect. Multiply both sides by -6 is the least common denominator. You're getting rid of all denominators and making them a positive 1. Okay? So if I multiply, nicely done. If I multiply this by -6, otherwise -6 over 1, what does that reduce to? 3. So if I multiply this by a -6 over 1, I now have 3 left over that'll be distributed to get, you all with me guys? That would get a 9p, what's -6 minus 2? -8. Distribute the 3. Minus 24.
I don't understand what the 3.
Okay, so do you agree that I can multiply both sides by -6? What's -6 over 1 multiplied with that -2 on the bottom? Do you agree that this -6 and -2 will reduce to a 3 over 1? There's where I'm looking at. Because now the only place that I'm focused on right now, Colin, is that top part. You with me? No more fractions. It's all on ground level now. Okay? So when I do that over here, everyone, what will this -6 and 3 reduce to? -2. And this over here is 5 minus p reduced or simplified. So if I'm going to do a -2, I would get -10 plus 2p. You with me? From here, move the 2, move the 24. My answer is D. P is 2. Nicely done, Jackson. LCD, get rid of both denominators, is a lot less work than cross multiply and divide a lot of times. And they test that. Okay? Alright, so now, solving inequalities. It's been a while. Can someone tell me what's the answer to that? Nice. Plus or minus 9. Can someone tell me what is the answer to that?
81.
Or -81. So a lot of people forget this plus and minus, okay? Guys, what do you do to these when you multiply or divide by a negative? You flip them. So if I'm setting up, this is what you're given, and you're trying to find x. I'm going to show you two ways. The first way, because of this right here, you're going to set it to a positive and negative form. Are we good? Now you're going to solve for each of them. So if I subtract 3, I'm going to get -7. If I subtract 3, I'm going to get a -13. So where is that? Oh, this is a different setup. This is a different problem. I shouldn't have highlighted that. So over here, you would get x is equal to 7 and x is equal to a -13. Do we agree? Yeah. Okay. Now, if there are inequalities, you're going to do the same thing. The only difference is right here. Where the negative was, you flipped the inequalities. I may have to move some people because some people are distracted. You know who you are. You're going to flip the inequality because you have that negative. Now solving it from here, you would subtract a 3, so you'd have x is less than or equal to what? 7. And then you would subtract this 3, so you have x is greater than or equal to what? Negative 13. You all with me? Alright, so with absolute value plus and minus. With absolute value inequality, don't forget to flip the negative one. Okay? Alright, so now let's look at, what if I gave you this, and I wanted you to give me those answers quickly? Here's how you can see it. The absolute value of x looks like this. You with me? And if this is my function, would you agree that that's the same as if I were to write it like this? Okay? So what this could be is, this shifted 3 units to the what? Left. And how many units down or up? Down. So 1, 2, 3, and down 10, this is what the graph is going to look like. Somewhere here and here. Our answers are going to exist, and it's a rough sketch, right there and there. The fastest way, and you literally can do this in a matter of 5 or 10 seconds, where most people will take longer, a lot longer, as you can see that the center is at negative 3, right here, from this form right here, and it has a jump of 10. 10 over this way, 10 over this way. So if I jump 10 from negative 3 to the right, I will get 7. If I jump 10 to the left, I will get negative 13. And that's how you can get those answers quickly. Don't do it with the inequalities, only do it with the equals. Okay? Alright. Let's move on to some examples. Now, you saw from the example, they did everything all in one shot, okay? Let me show you with number 2. Those who want to go fast will do this form right here. You'll have negative 7 less than 1/2 x minus 3 less than or equal to 7. I want you to concentrate on this, because people who aren't as confident on these will end up doing this twice. They will add 3. They will add 3. You with me? And what would they do next? Multiply both sides by what? Negative 2. So you have to flip. And if you multiply both sides by negative 2, you get x is less.
There's not a negative in the original problem.
Oh, my mistake, my mistake. Thank you. So you just multiply by 2 then. So you don't flip. Nice catch. So if you don't flip, and you multiply both sides by 2, what are you left with over here? Or x is greater than negative 8. What would you get here? 20. Right? So now, guys, you can get these fairly quickly, because if you did it this way, then you've got to ask yourself, x is greater than negative 8, and it's also less than or equal to 20. And this would be your final answer, that you could say, at negative 8, I have it open, at 20, I have it closed, and I will include this and shade everything in the middle. Okay? Or those of you who will do it fast. There's not a negative. We change that. What would you do if you're concentrated on this? What do you do to both sides? Add 3. What is this number? Negative 4. Then what do you do to both sides. Multiply by 2. And that's how you get that. You good? Alright, so now, let's see, just the setup. How would we set this up? Now, real quick, let me tell you, please don't do that shortcut that I was telling you before. The transformations and the jump from the center, because of that number right there. Okay, do the actual work, okay? Go ahead. You can factor the 2 out, but even so, I prefer you not to go for that shortcut. When that coefficient is not 1, I prefer you to set it up and do it the longer way, quote unquote. Yes, Jack?
So you take the bars away and then do plus 10.
Yep, so you have this, is this, and then the other one would be what? 2x minus 8 is greater than or equal to negative 10. Solve it out, layer it, and you're good to go. Awesome job. Please make sure to plug in your